Welcome to another lesson with IELTS Success Summit. And today we're going to look at the reading section, and the question type we're going to look at today is matching names. And the matching names is where we take the name of a researcher and we match it to, we take the idea that we find in the question and match it to a researcher. And we always begin our questions in the IELTS reading section by looking at the first set of questions first and always paying careful attention to the instructions. Reading the instructions is so important throughout the IELTS exam that you can raise your total band score in the IELTS exam by half a point or a point just by making sure that for every section of the IELTS exam, you read the instructions. And every time you read the instructions, you want to underline them just to make sure and confirm in your own mind that you are focusing on the task that's necessary to get the score you need. And in this situation, we just want to match each idea we're given with the name of a researcher. So we'll read the instructions and underline them and then go to the next step, which is using our keyword strategy. And if you're familiar with the keyword strategy, you know that we always mark names, proper names, dates, times. We mark adjectives and adverbs that will help us narrow down our choices. We'll also mark unique terms and technical terms. But obviously, when it comes to the matching names type of question, proper names are always going to be important. If you would like a more in-depth lesson on the keyword strategy, you can find a video on my YouTube channel, and I would encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel where you can find lessons on not only different questions in the reading section, but also every section in the IELTS exam. So when we look at the keywords, obviously names are going to be very important in this case, and we're given a list of names. And these are the names that we're going to match these ideas with in this question type. So what we want to do is we want to take these names, and we're also going to be on the lookout for the theories or the research, even the dates or places that match these names. That's why proper names and dates and places are so important when it comes to your keyword strategy in the reading section. So if we mark the keywords in the ideas, we're going to look for the importance of yoga. And it's important. And why is it important? For decreasing the main hormone. We're going to look at the advantages of yoga and how they're connected with decreasing stress, and the significance of yoga and existing cases of heart disease, and then the connection of yoga and improving your circulatory system. And this last one, the connection, one thing we're always looking for, and this is why adjectives are so important, because they often point out making comparisons. And so often in the reading section, comparatives and superlatives are so important when it comes to identifying the key information. So once we've taken a look at the questions, and we always begin with the questions before we even take a look at the passage. And one of the main reasons for that is by becoming familiar, first of all, with the questions. When we approach the passage, we already have an idea of what the passage is about. We're a little familiar with the topic already. And so it won't seem like we're approaching this passage for the first time, because we'll already have an idea of what it's about. So the first thing we do is we skim the entire passage. Now, for the purposes of this lesson, we're only going to be looking at small portions of the passage at once. But when you go to skim the passage, you do the entire passage in one shot. Okay, you take the time and do a good job of skimming the entire passage. And skimming means that you will read every word as quickly as possible and mark the key words. And remember, you're not reading to really understand everything. You're definitely not reading to have a long-term memory of what you're reading, because after the 20 minutes of focusing on this passage, you're not going to have any interest in this topic at all in the future, unless it's a topic that you are genuinely interested in. But remember, you don't have to have any prior knowledge of the topic, even prior knowledge of specific vocabulary related to the topic. You're just looking for the things as you skim and as you look at every word and underline important information that's going to help you locate what you need for answering the questions. And that's the difference between skimming and scanning. You only skim the passage once. You only read every word and underline keywords once. It's about a 7 or 8 minute task, which will leave you the remaining time to scan the passage and answer the questions, because scanning is only looking at information that you've already identified as being important. So you'll make sure you do a good job in the few minutes that you allot to skimming, so that you don't have to read every word again. You don't have to mark information again. And as you go through each following set of questions, you'll only be scanning the passage. And this will help you find the answers quickly, efficiently, and effectively. Because remember, in the reading section, you have 40 questions. And you only get 1 point for each question, no matter where it's located. You get the same, you get 1 point for question number 1, and you get 1 point for question number 40. So no questions are more important than the others. The idea is to get as many correct as possible. So when I go to skim the passage, I'm going to be marking keywords from that keyword strategy, a comparable study, because I'm looking at adjective and noun combinations, which are so important for identifying key information. I'm looking for dates. 2007. I'm always going to mark dates, even if I didn't have them in the set of questions that I just looked at. They may be very important for future questions of the same passage. University of South Australia, well, this is a proper name, and I'm going to make sure I underline it. And even more importantly, especially for matching names, I'm going to underline Caroline Smith, because this is the key to matching names questions. And then I'm going to underline words that I've already seen, or phrases that I've already seen in the questions. So I know that comparing the effect of yoga and relaxation, I've already seen that in the questions. So I know it's going to be an important clue for answering the questions that I want to answer. And then I have other important keywords, and I'm going to underline those, like comparable improvement in stress. I know that I saw stress somewhere in those questions as I mark the questions. One important tip about marking keywords is you want to make sure that you mark enough to find the information you're looking for. So you want to make sure you mark enough. And if you don't mark enough, you won't find the answers you're looking for, but you also want to be careful that you don't mark too much. If you mark too many words, then you also won't find what you're looking for because you won't be able to discriminate and pick out the details that you're looking for. So now we go to our questions, and we want to begin answering our questions. And in this case, we have four questions and four different researchers or four different names. So we have a pretty good idea that we will be matching. We'll be using each of the names for each question. So it doesn't really matter if we focus on the ideas and take the ideas and match a researcher with them, or we focus on the researchers and then match an idea. But I'm going to suggest when it comes to matching names that we do just that. We focus on the names because they're very easy to find in the passage, and then we look for the idea that most closely matches that name. So we're going to begin with Caroline Smith, and we just saw the portion of the passage that talks about Caroline Smith. So we want to ask ourselves, which of these ideas matches Caroline Smith? And we discover that Caroline Smith is matched with number 2, the advantage of yoga in decreasing stress. Because when we looked at the passage, we saw that she was closely connected with decreasing stress. So as soon as we choose that answer, and this is a key strategy when we have these kinds of options, we want to completely eliminate that option so that we don't ever look at it again. Now, we could put a check mark beside it or an X or a thin line beside it, but I'm going to encourage you to completely scribble it out so that you never look at it again. So that when we go to the next name, we're not even going to have that option appear, so that we're only looking at 3 options for the next question. And what this does is it just makes the questions easier as we go along, because with the first one, we were choosing 1 out of 4. Now we're only going to be choosing, as we go to the next name, 1 out of 3. And then following that, it'll be 1 out of 2. And then finally, we just have 1 option left. So you can see how the questions get easier as we go along. You know, if you were to just look at the reading section overall, and you have 60 minutes to answer 40 questions, it seems like that would average out to about 1.5 minutes per question. But remember, you have to take the time out for skimming the passage and doing a good job of that. So let's say it leaves you with an average of 1 minute per question. So I want you to know that as you go through each set of questions, as you become more familiar with the passage, your time to find each answer will actually decrease as you go through the sets of questions. So at the beginning, while it may take you 1 minute to find an answer to a question, maybe by the time you've come to the end of your 13 or 14 questions for this passage, you're becoming, as you scan each time, looking for answers, you're becoming more and more familiar with the location of information in the passage, and you will actually pick up speed so that maybe by the time you get to the end of the 13 questions, it's only taking you 30 seconds or less even to find the answers. So you are going to pick up speed as you go through the passage each time. I also want to mention one important thing when it comes to time management. If you've spent a minute looking for a question and you still haven't, for an answer, and you still haven't found it, it's important to keep moving forward. Don't panic. Don't get concerned or worried if you miss a question. Just keep moving forward, because you don't want to end up running out of time because you spent too much time looking for a question. And then you may miss 3 or 4 questions at the end of the reading section because you didn't keep moving forward. The best case scenario is that by the end of the reading section, you may have 3 or 4 minutes left over. And that's when you can go back and find the answers to the questions that you may have missed. So let's go on to now we want to look for the ideas that match the next researcher. So again, we skim the passage. We've already done this. Again, for the purposes of this lesson, we're just looking at this portion. But really what we're doing by the time we're here is we're scanning. So we're just looking at the key words that we've already identified. So we have a healthy lifestyle, progression of heart disease. And we have, again, the most important information, Dr. J. Ujendra, and he's in Santa Cruz, Mumbai. But again, we can see that healthy lifestyle and lifestyle change are very important. And also the idea of heart disease. So because we've identified the keywords, we should be able to easily identify the idea that goes with this researcher. And so as we look at the options that are left, we see that there's one that's clearly identified with significance of yoga and heart disease. And so as we look, we're going to definitely choose number 3. And so as we choose number 3, what we want to do again is we want to completely eliminate it. And you can see now how this question is going to get easier and easier, because now as we go to Andreas Michelson, we only have to choose between 2 options. And so we're going to go to our passage again, and we're only scanning it because we've skimmed it and we've marked the key words. The key word is Andreas Mikkelsen. And again, we have the different things, where he's from, and we have a date, and those may come in handy for future questions. But what we're looking for right now as we're scanning is we're looking for the connection and between yoga. And in this case, we see that it's a significant reduction, and it's the primary stress hormone. These are things that we've already marked. We've seen that the idea dropped considerably, and that's an example of where an adverb really helps us understand the idea more clearly. And as we go to our options, we see that we have one that's the importance of yoga and in decreasing the main hormone. And as we choose our answer, we know that it's number 1. And again, when we go to choose after we've chosen our answer, we eliminate it completely. And even without looking at the passage, we know that when we come to the last name and we only have one option left, we can choose that option. Now, we do want to be careful, because in some cases, the instructions may say that you can use one name more than once for these ideas. But in this case, that's not the case here. So we quickly have our answer to question letter D, and that's number 4. And this is the simple strategy that you can apply to matching names questions in the reading section. I hope you found this helpful. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos about not only the reading section, but to improve your listening strategy, your writing, and your speaking. And I wish you all the best on your journey as you continue to prepare for the IELTS exam.